Salutations. I want to say thank you to the people on Patreon that are supporting, because I didn't think I'd still be here before you doing YouTube videos at this point. So the fact this is still going on is cool. But something I wanted to address today is a little bit different, alright? And it goes more into the realm of free energy. I think free energy is important. That movement probably isn't being emphasized the way it should be right now for our society. So what I wanted to talk about is space-time motive force and then time reactors or time generators. And something that kind of ties to is David Lewis Anderson, somebody that I heard getting discredited from by a lot of people after the few interviews he did, and it was, oh, this is a guy that just makes websites, yada yada. But the truth is, you know, he presented so much scientific time science and time theory with what he was saying that I don't see anybody actually going against that and arguing that. And along with that, he made claims that they had done 2 and 3, 4, I think 4th generation time generators or time reactors, as he called them. And he's very specific. And I think the science he used to describe those is valid, and it goes along with some of the things that I had learned before ever hearing about him. Things like Kurt Gödel or bent circulating time light beams, which is somebody that I've told you before that Dr. Mallet from the University of Connecticut, he's working on a time machine, a time device that is actually using bending lasers, which is circulating light beams. So that's something that's right in plain view of you, that it's not just strictly the private sector and these type of time reactor and time technologies. All right, this is a serious issue going on. So I think it's worth going into just actually what is space-time motive force and how that connects to free energy and into time control technology. Okay, that connects us into something like the Earth, basically spherical to a great degree, okay? A large body such as that turning and creating what's called the inertial frame dragging, which is actually kind of the space around, as it turns, it's bending the space-time around it. The same way that a cork, kind of wine cork does when it goes down, it takes the air and everything, but it twists like that spring type of action. So that is actually creating, this frame dragging is creating what's called closed time-like curves. And that's essential in dealing with any type of a time technology of the degree that we're about to go into, like the reactor he's talking about. It has a lot to do with the space you're actually utilizing to harness these closed time-like curves. So basically you're dealing with a machine or a device that is harnessing closed time-like curves. And such that occurs in the frame dragging of a planet such as Earth. So if you have something like the reactor that he had, that I flashed pictures of, very interesting how he has the quantum computers running it and all that, but nonetheless I found his proposal for time fields and the manipulation of pushing time fields forwards and backwards very interesting. All right, he said that this generator, what it does is within the space of time control of closed time-like curves, it, as a collector of such the energy, and then what it does is they have a magnetic generator that this thing creates, circulating some type of generator, and within that they also inject a gaseous agent, all right, that I think gives them more of the time bubble actually effect. And then they use like 20 high-power lasers to inject, that they fire into the actual bubble, and they use that to actually push the time field of the bubble forwards and backwards. And they've done a lot of experiments with that, and then within something, I think he said the 2nd or 3rd generation warp generators, they were still calling them, then field generators, were actually also collectors, reactors. They started calling them reactors, but they're also field generators as well. They're collectors of energy. So I think that's very, very interesting. When we start dealing with free energy, that is very serious. That takes us into the type 1 and type 2, actually type 2 civilizations that use the wormhole and use the space itself the fabric of space as their prime power source. So we're dealing something with that. It takes us into a whole nother, not just time manipulation and time generators and time field reactors, not just that, this takes us into space propulsion also. So if you had something like an Enterprise or a spaceship that's operating on this type of a principle, when you actually see it pulling up to a planet and going into orbit, that is going to be a refueling right there for their crystals or whatever it is they're using for propulsion. That's a whole nother thing we're dealing with when we're dealing with free energy from space itself. So I think that's just something that's really worth talking about and evaluating, as far as some of the things, especially he was saying about what the time fields were doing when he was they're exposing plants to it and things like that. You know, what it was doing to actually, when these organisms would encounter the Doppler effect, which is actually the change, that part of the change in the time fields themselves. When you're moving them, that starts creating the Doppler effect, which is something that inertial frame dragging of Earth does to the satellites, why they go off for so many seconds each year, or they used to anyway. So that's just something I wanted to kind of nail about that right there. Some of this kind of goes into what people talk about, Project Looking Glass. I think that's another type of time control technology that's been discussed, kind of conspiracy wise, but I think it maybe has some validity to it, just as something like the etheric chronovisor does. That was supposed to be a device that was from Sirius, but nonetheless, I think it merits some type of warrant, at least looking into and researching for yourself. Oh, the main thing when dealing with this time reactor, I've shown some pictures of it. I've also heard him and other people discussing hooking such a mechanism as this into like a nano satellite and making this a very small contraption that you could have tons of these generators the same way you would have like a nano or pico, and that changes things a lot. We're doing a lot with nano satellites right now, and if you're a member of the Patreon team here, you can look at a video I did called Project Leonide. Man, gosh, that's been about a year and something ago now, but that's something that deals with the nano satellites as it was described by Anthony Sanchez, I think was his name, in UFO Highway. So anyway, that's a real deal, nano satellite dispersal. Think of that in terms of dealing with these time reactors or time generators, and how you could have a cult of them operating in nano like that, or even pico eventually. So I think that's really worthy of thinking of how these things could be done in the private sector and investigating yourself, since there is no disclosure of time control technology in the private sector. That's why I've gone back on this channel. You look at some of the videos I've done as a contactee myself over UFO stasis fields, and how I think that is control, how that is connected to some of the time control technology we're seeing by humanity being put out that we don't recognize until it gets into our household. But these are things that are operating right now, we can see in the medical field, such as some of the MRIs and some of the different things they're using for cryogenic. They're trying to replace cryogenics with a different type of things. Some of the 3D printing, things of this nature, just pay attention to. So anyway, enough of that. I'm kind of going on too much here. But I want to thank everybody. I've received a lot of encouragement for these videos by people saying thanks and just saying really nice things. That's the other side of the coin now I'm seeing, that is, I want to say thank you to all of you for the encouragement, and especially the people on Patreon. The few people that are there are supporting, and this is what videos are still coming out for, and why I'm still doing this. If it was not for you, there would have been no Corey Good video about black extraterrestrials. There would have been no video with John Vivenko. I was going to stop doing these. So just want to say thanks, and please subscribe, please share. I got shadow banned, so a lot of my videos don't come up when you search them now. And also people that are also already subscribed, hit the bell again so you get notified when I put new ones out. The shadow ban is still in effect. I'm trying to beat that algorithm, so please share and subscribe. Peace.